Welcome to the channel. My name is Reni. I'm a pagan from the beautiful country of Holland. Sitting today in a secluded little part of the forest somewhere in the east of the country, enjoying the winter weather, the dark nights and the freezing cold. Around here already some plants and some trees have already started sprouting because the temperature was a bit warm the past couple of weeks. I'm not ready yet for the spring. I kind of enjoy the cold and the darkness, and I want to enjoy it a little while longer. Today I want to discuss one of the big Nordic myths, because that's what I do on this channel, for those who don't know. I believe that mythology isn't just entertainment. These tales were told around campfires for generations and generations, for thousands of years, and they did so because there actually were life lessons in there. And if you look hard and deep enough, you can find nuggets of true wisdom that our ancestors put in those tales. And you can use them to live a fulfilling life. That's what I try to do with my life, and that's what this channel is for a large part about, is taking you with me on that journey through mythology. So, Thor's wedding, one of the most famous and one of the most humorous tales of all the Nordic myths. I'll give you first a small recap of the myth, then I'll tell you what I think the meaning is, and then we can see if we can apply that in our lives to live a more better and fruitful life. Because I think that's what our ancestors would have wanted us to do. So, there's this day in Asgard. Thor wakes up, he looks left, he looks right, can't find his hammer anywhere. So you know the saying, when in doubt, blame Loki. So that's what he does. Finds Loki, grabs him by the throat, and he says, I don't know what happened, but I know it's you. So get me my hammer, or I'll punch you so hard you won't ever recover from it. So Loki's like, I didn't steal your hammer, but Thor's having none of it. He doesn't care. Just get it now, or I'll hurt you bad. Okay. So he's in this predicament, like he usually is. What do I do? So he just flies through all the 9 realms to see if he can find it. Then he finds a giant called Thrym, and the giant has stolen Thor's hammer. So he goes back to Asgard, and he talks with Freya, and he says, can I loan your coat? Because the coat makes you invisible, and then I can just steal the hammer back. So he goes back with the coat. He's invisible, but the giant can still see him. And the giant says, listen, trickster god, if Thor wants his hammer back, he can have it back, but I have some conditions. I want Freya's hand in marriage. You can give me that, Thor can have his hammer back. So Loki's pissed because his little scheme of just stealing the hammer back didn't work, and he has to fly back to Asgard and tell Thor the bad news. So he talks it over with Freya, and Freya's like, absolutely not. I'm not gonna be some bridal treasure to some giant just because Thor wants his hammer back. There must be another way. And Thor's like, well, Freya, you gotta do what you gotta do, because I gotta get my hammer back. So they start arguing, and Loki has the answer. He usually has an answer, and it's usually a tricky answer which gets you in a lot of trouble. But he says, listen, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna trick the giant. We're gonna trick Thrym. Thor, I'm gonna need you to dress up in a dress with a wig as a woman, because we will dress you up just as beautiful as Freya. And then we can get close enough. And if we get close enough, we can steal the hammer back. That's my plan. So Thor is like, I'm having none of this shit. But he's like, what else are you gonna do? You don't have your hammer, So Thor's like, okay, but you're coming with me, Loki. If I'm gonna go full transvestite, then you're also gonna go full transvestite. You're also dressing up as a girl. You're gonna be my bridesmaid. So, okay. That's the plan. They tell Thrym, okay, we have no choice. You want the hammer back, so we will give you Freya's hand. You can marry the goddess of love, war, and beauty. Now, who wouldn't want that? So, they all dressed up, Thor, this big bulky guy in a dress, and Loki next to him. They come, and Tyrion is so excited, but Tyrion starts to notice that there's something strange going on because Freya eats like a fucking freight train. He eats like 5 pigs, and he drinks like 10 gallons of beer. So like Tyrion is like, what's up with that? I didn't know Freya could eat that much. So Loki starts to negotiate, starts to talk, like he does. Oh, don't worry, it's just, she was so nervous for the wedding. She hasn't eaten in weeks. That's why she eats so much. And, then Thor just drank more beer and he starts to burp and he goes just on the table. And then Tyrion goes like, "Is this the goddess of love and beauty? This is strange." And then Loki says, "Oh no, don't worry. It's just like she was so nervous that her stomach was bothering her, and now that she's here with the wedding, she's finally letting go. So it's very natural, right?" So Tyrion goes like, possibly. So, and they're gonna have the wedding, and the matrimony needs to be sanctified. Now, for that, you can use Thor's hammer. So they bring in the hammer to bless the marriage. And as soon as Thor sees his hammer, he grabs it, rips off his dress, and smashes the giant and all the people there. It's a fucking rampage. It's a goddamn massacre. But he gets his hammer back and he goes back with Loki, and all's well that ends well. Fun story, eh? Big muscular guy dressed up as a woman, trying to disguise that he's actually just one of the strongest gods in there, not one of the strongest god in there. Well, what can it mean? Then you start asking questions like, what does Thor represent in this tale? Like Thor is like strength, but he's also like a warrior. I've talked about that in the first, but sometimes I think he could also be symbolic for mankind, because there is no deity in the Nordic pantheon that is so connected to the earth. Literally, his father is Odin, but his mother is the earth himself. His wife is Sif, which symbolizes the grain that feeds us. He is very entrenched with earth. He is the combination of wisdom who impregnated the earth. So we are also a bit of earth, because the atoms, the carbon in our body is the same carbon that's in the trees and in the leaves and in everything that lives. So when people say like, we are all related, it sounds really spiritual and shit, but it's actually scientifically true. We're all connected. We're all connected to the earth, but we're also connected to spirit, just like the thunder god. But Thor isn't really the main character in this tale. He isn't. The main character is the hammer. Because that gets stolen. Then you think like, what could the hammer represent? It's a weapon of Thor, made by the dwarves, for Loki, gave to the gods, yes, but what could it represent? Could it be the ethereal body? What is the hammer? Well, your first answer is that it's a weapon, and you'd be right, it is a weapon. But as you can see in this tale, like they want to bless the marriage with the hammer, sanctify the marriage with the hammer. And you see that in other tales and other scriptures as well, that like I believe that when Balder dies, he gets this big funeral pile, and Thor blesses it with his hammer. So it's also a means to bless and to make holy. But if you zoom out a bit, what this tale actually is, so I'm actually zooming out as I'm talking about it, is there's basically trouble, more trouble, more trouble, more trouble, more trouble, and it goes back again, just like any good tale has. But I'm thinking maybe this tale is about winter, because Thor, husband of Sif, the golden grain, who can bless things so well with his hammer, and who is so enamored with earth, with Midgard. Maybe to lose your ability to bless and make things grow again, maybe that's symbolic. Maybe that's the hammer, and maybe that's symbolic of winter. Because it becomes winter, and things stop growing, and it becomes dark, 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 dark. And in the darkest of winter, just like in the darkest point of this tale, you have to give up. The goddess of love You have to give her up. And it looks like you have to give up your love. When it's like a dark winter in the olden times where it just freezes and snows for 5 months straight. Your food is almost gone. You become cranky and bitter. You think you have to give up your love for the world. But just when you think it can't get any worse, Thor gets back his hammer. And everything is the way it should. And you don't have to give up your love. And you don't have to give up your hammer. And everything starts growing again. So maybe that's what this tale is about. It's about nature going into winter and almost having to give up love. And then the hammer getting back again. And turns out that you haven't. You don't have to give up your love. Everything's going back to the way it should be. Maybe that's the dark part of the cycle. Sometimes I think there's only 2 seasons in Western civilization. There's like the horny season, where it's just everything is fertile, and like the dark and spooky season. And maybe this tale depicts the spooky season. And maybe that's the lesson. Maybe I'm doing a bit of too much dubious speculation, but maybe that is the lesson. If you think I'm doing too much dubious speculation, let me know in the comments below. The lesson is that things come and things go. And to be honest, if you want to put that in a modern frame, put that old tale and apply it, to be perfectly honest, last 2 years in Western civilization, they were pretty terrible. There was this virus, and there were lockdowns. There was polarization, a lot. And really, it looked like they were going to mandate certain medical procedures, which is unprecedented in Western civilization. It really looked like that. And it became darker and it became darker, and it just like on the TV, they were like, yeah, we're going to put all the other people who don't want the medical procedure, we're going to put them we have to put them somewhere separate. They were already talking about that. And they said that you get used to it. This is the new normal. This is how it's going to go. You're going to get mandatory medical treatment from now on. And to be honest, I didn't like that at all. And I thought I would have to give up. I would have to trade in my love for hate. But just as things started to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, suddenly, I believe somewhere, Thor just might have gotten back his hammer. Because there was suddenly no new normal, and it all came back. So I really felt that the past 2 years, we in Western civilization have lived through Thor's wedding. The coming of darkness and the return of love. And not a return, you almost lost it, but we didn't lose it at all. What we had, we held. And it just simply went away, just like the seasons in nature do. Okay. Thanks for joining me again on this lovely day in the Dutch woods. I'll see you all next week. I'm hoping to do some more location stuff, because I've done a video about how holy the oak is, and I want to take you to one really holy oak. Now, I'm not talking about just a holy oak that's holy because Uncle Rainy says it's holy. No, I'm talking about an oak that's actually used for healing somewhere in Holland by the local population. Yes, the year is 2023, ladies and gentlemen, and there are still people using holy trees for healing. Yes, paganism can't be stopped. See you next week.